Hi, folks. This is Abel James, and welcome to the Fat Burning Man Show, where we talk about real food and real results. Today's special guests are Bill and Haley from the food lovers Primal Palate, and they're also the authors of Gather, Make It Paleo, and the 30-Day Guide to Paleo Cooking, which is due out shortly. These two have been very busy. Now, before we get to the show, I wanted to let you know that actually we have a bunch of our own books that are out and are going to be in print very, very soon. But right now, you can get them on the Kindle. If you go to Amazon.com, just type in Abel James. I have, an Intro to Paleo book. I also have a book called The Musical Brain, which goes into the biological basis of the faculty of music and kind of its evolutionary roots there, and how the brains of musicians are different than the brains of non-musicians. For all of those of you who are on the fence wondering if I was a nerd, hopefully that clears it up for you a little bit. And then, of course, we have 6 books that are quick little recipe books from Civilized Caveman, my friend George Bryant. So just all you have to do is go to Amazon.com, type in Abel James, and you can check those out. And like I said, they're going to be available in print as well very, very soon. All right, so on to the show with Bill and Haley. It's very fun. They even bring their dog Charlie Dickens along for the ride. We talk about how you can make the world's tastiest soups from bone broth, how Bill and Haley are planning their 100% gluten-free wedding, how to feed your puppy raw food, and what it's like to eat black bear. All right, let's go hang out with Bill and Haley. Welcome to the show, folks. We're here with paleo power couple Bill and Haley from the Food Lovers Primal Palate, and they're also here with their dog Charlie Dickens. What's cooking, guys?
Not too much. How you doing?
Doing awesome. So those of you who are listening to the audio obviously can't see the cutest dog in the world is actually staring back at me from my computer screen right now. But those of you lucky enough to be on video can see this ridiculous animal right now. So Charlie Dickens, how did you get that name?
So when we adopted him, he's a Shih Tzu and he's 6 months old. He's really little for a Shih Tzu. Bill's parents have a Shih Tzu, and
Oh,
theirs is 13 pounds, and Charlie's only like 7 pounds, maybe 7.5. Um, but so we found him on Pet Finder, and we drove to Connecticut to get him. He was from a puppy mill, and his name was Trouble.
We should have
And
known back then.
that's a good dog name.
yeah, Bill's parents were like, maybe you should find out why his name is Trouble before you adopt him. Um,
Yeah, that's my dog's
but
middle name, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he's so sweet, and we wanted to name him Charlie. That was like one of the names that we picked, and we at first called him Charlie. We were like, oh, like Charlie Brown, because in the photo he looked mostly brown, and after like a day with him, we were like, wow, he is trouble. He's a little troublemaker. So we started calling him Charlie Dickens because he's a little Dickens
My
sometimes.
dad used to call me that when I was a kid. I don't know if that's like a widely used term for like kids that are trouble, but
Yeah, I think it's
I
pretty
know.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
Yeah.
awesome. So let's start. How do you guys feed your dog?
So we are going into raw feeding. We do actually the shelter we adopted him from only does grain-free kibble, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
cool.
Yeah, so he started out on grain-free kibble, and then shelter dogs come with a lot of issues. So he's actually been on quite a few medications, like antibiotics, because he had he had to be dewormed. He got worms from the shelter,
Oh,
and he had ear mites. He got ear mites from the shelter,
hmm.
so he had to have like eardrops, and then he ended up with an infection from his neutering. Unfortunately, they will not let you adopt a dog that has not been fixed.
Yeah.
And he was way too young to be neutered, so it really was not ideal. We would have wanted to wait a lot longer for that just because they need those hormones.
Yeah.
So he got an infection from the neutering. The shelter's vet put a non-dissolvable suture on the inside, so it
Oh
like
my
healed.
gosh.
Yeah, it healed with this suture on the inside. So he got an infection from it.
Right.
So we had to get him on antibiotics, and so we started feeding him. I started cooking food for him actually, and I was giving him bone broth and stuff like that. And we took him to a holistic vet who's really big on raw feeding.
Hmm.
So we got some food from the vet, and the vet told us how to transition him to raw feeding, and gave him a probiotic. So he gets a probiotic sprinkled on his food and some puppy fish oil and stuff like
Oh,
that. So he gets for his treats, like his training treats when he goes potty and stuff like that, we do um, freeze dried beef liver.
yeah, that's the good
Um,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
he loves that. We also got freeze dried grass fed buffalo and freeze dried wild caught salmon.
Jeez.
And he loves all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, um,
Just like his parents.
yep. And he gets bone broth sometimes, which he goes crazy over. He goes
Yeah,
absolutely nuts over the bone broth.
I'm sure. I do
And
too.
yeah, and he loves cucumber, and he'll
Really?
not, yeah,
Yeah, he likes
he
Wow.
loves cucumber. We gave him a little nibble of banana, and we gave him a little nibble of orange the other day because we read that oranges and bananas are safe for dogs.
Yeah.
Um, there are a couple foods that you have to be careful, like they can't eat grapes or raisins.
Right. All the
Those are, yeah, those are
Yeah.
really dangerous.
chocolate and xylitol
So
are big ones too, especially
yeah,
around this house.
yeah,
You guys are
yeah.
lucky though because you have what's Charlie, 7 pounds?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
only like 7 pounds. He's a little guy.
So
There's
you
no
can
counter surfing.
yeah, but you can hook him up with like an A-list meal, and it's just like this little dinky amount, right? Like
Right.
problem
Yeah.
with like so I have a 75-pound yellow lab, and you guys met her, and she goes through food like crazy. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I know. I
Feeding
bet.
feeding raw makes her so much like stronger and happier and everything else like that, but it does get a little bit expensive because she just plows right through it.
Oh
Yeah.
But
man.
they're
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, we can make food for him and freeze it, and it's like, I mean, he gets like a third of a cup twice a day or something. It's teeny.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could probably feed him for 2 weeks for about $5 worth of real food.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, he really
That's
doesn't eat that much.
that's
Yeah.
nuts. So
Yeah.
why don't we shift over to bone broth? You guys, I would assume, are pretty big fans of that. I know I am. What are the basics of like for people out there who are kind of on the fence? It seems like a weird thing to do, right? But
Yeah.
what's an easy way to get started with something like that, and why should they?
So, we actually are pretty bad about drinking broth just on its own.
Hmm.
Every once in a while, like in the winter, it's cold here, and it's nice to have like a cup of broth, to sip on when it's snowing or something. But typically, I mean, all the recipes in our new book Gather, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit,
Yeah.
we recommend using bone broth in all the soups. So some people think bone broth is a little weird, but when you think about it, it's just soup stock,
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
just traditional soup stock. I mean, my we have that recipe for chicken soup on our website, Grandy Kip's chicken soup, and that is, the traditional Jewish penicillin, like the
Hmm.
soup that my grandmother, her grandmother made that soup, and she would use a whole chicken. Like
Yeah.
she would throw in the carcass, and like that's how she got the broth, and that's what made it so healing. Um, so we always make broth from scratch,
Hmm.
just because it's so easy, and we have a couple tricks for making it a lot faster. But we really only use box stuff like in a pinch. Like if
Hmm.
we absolutely have to make something and we just do not have any time whatsoever, then we'll buy the Imagine Organics broth because it's pretty clean ingredients, but you still have to kind of wonder how they're making it.
Yeah.
So um, we that's really just in serious emergencies that we use the box stuff. But we actually got a pressure cooker not too long ago, and that has been a lifesaver for making broth because you can have really rich tasting bone broth in an hour
That's
instead
cool.
of instead
Yeah,
of
that's
24
awesome.
hours or
Right.
16 or whatever. So when we were making Gather, all of the soups in that book, we made all the broth from scratch, and
Yeah.
we did it all in the pressure cooker
Oh,
because
really?
yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we were working, so we had to make this really quickly because sometimes, with cookbooks, sometimes you finish like an idea for a recipe like the day before you have to start working on it.
Right.
So there isn't always a whole lot of time, especially when you're doing a project like ours, which was really fast paced
Hmm.
and a lot to think about. So, um, but yeah, we love bone broth. We always make it from scratch, and we try and do the slow cooker just because I think when you do it the traditional way and cook it slowly at a low heat, it's probably a lot better. You're probably getting more
Yeah.
minerals and things like that. But I don't have any problems with using the pressure cooker when we need to. It definitely helps if you don't have time.
Yeah. I've always been a little bit bored by soups. They've never, excited me. Other people will go to restaurants and they'll be like, I want the soup. And I've never been that guy. So like
Yeah.
the idea of bone broth didn't really excite me at first. So I've tried to just kind of goof off recently. And it's been really cool experimenting with different ways to make it be awesome for you. And so one thing that's
Yeah.
worked well for me recently is making it into like a French onion soup.
Oh, nice.
We cook up a bunch of onions and bacon in the bacon fat, throw that in there, throw in some meat sometimes, and then I go straight to garlic, sometimes some onion powder, and I like to put some spice in there too. And then so that's come out great recently, and I do
Yeah.
dairy, so I put some dairy on top there too, some nice cheese. But we've also done it and turned it into kind of like a tomato type base, putting in some tomato
Yeah.
paste there too. And it's amazing how much better it tastes than, like you said, that stuff that comes out of a box. And all we do is
Right.
basically like when you guys actually, we just did this when you guys came over for Easter, which was amazing, by the way. We had a bunch of ducks, but we saved all the carcasses and we got some bones, just threw it into the crock pot for like 24 hours and came out with some of the best soup we've ever had. It was absolutely
So
terrific.
good.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
bet.
Yeah, it just tastes so much better, and I love eating soup and feeling like I'm so healthy right now. I'm eating
Yeah.
bone broth.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know about you
So,
guys, but
yeah.
I get a huge boost like an hour or two after I eat it. I just feel like $1,000,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
love
Pretty
it.
awesome.
It's so good. And then we just started using the Great Lakes gelatin also. Have you tried that yet?
No, I haven't.
So that's cool. There's two different kinds. One that gels and one that doesn't gel. The one in the green container doesn't gel, so you can just pour like a teaspoon in your water or whatever and stir it up um, and then just drink it. And then the stuff in the orangey red container gels, so you can do like Jello. We made gummy snacks with
Really?
fresh fruit and or frozen fruit and lemon juice and just the gelatin.
Yeah.
They're so good. So like for the summertime, if it's really hot and you're like, I cannot drink bone broth, just make some of these gummy snacks and you're getting everything that you would get from bone broth. So
That's super
it's
cool.
good.
Yeah. All right, so I have this right in front of me. This is your book, obviously, Gather, which is absolutely beautiful. And last time you guys were on the show, you talked about what it was like putting it together. But can you just, for the people who might not be familiar with it yet, I know it's definitely been out there. It's already won some awards, which is awesome. But for the people who haven't heard about it, let's talk about your inspiration for why you decided to put together and what exactly it is.
Sure.
So when we made Make It Paleo, we put a bunch of menus in the back of the book. And when we finished Make It Paleo, we were like, that's the next book we want to do. We really want to do an entertaining book. And I think the reason why was because William Sonoma has an entertaining book that's gorgeous. It's similar format to Gather. Square, is it square? Square book?
Almost square.
Yeah, almost square book, hardback. And it's just so beautiful. That was like one of the cookbooks that really inspired us with Make It Paleo and Gather. It's just so beautiful, and that was what really sparked our passion, with wanting to do an entertaining book.
Yeah, it had a really, really heavy lifestyle component to the photos. I mean, you saw these people having fun and being in these beautiful places, and
Yeah.
that not only began to drive what we were doing on our site, but it sort of planted the seed for this book. So we started on the book. I mean, we knew we wanted to do it right after Make It Paleo, so we shot things even a year and a half ago for the book, but we really only started to work on it in earnest last summer. So it still took just about 9 or 10 months to finish that project. I mean,
Wow.
it was huge, and we were actually working on 2 books concurrently. One was Gather. It was so interesting because Gather has great recipes that you can use all the time in it. I mean, there's lots of clean paleo recipes in there. There's some ones that are a little bit more just for gatherings and
Yeah.
special occasions, but it's everyone's gonna find something that they like in it.
Yeah.
But the thing that was funny is that we would go out and we'd do these huge elaborate meals on the weekends, and then during the week we'd eat, sort of like squeaky clean paleo,
Yeah.
and that in turn ended up working out for the other book that we were working on, which is like a 30-day guide
Yep.
to paleo cooking. In fact, that's the title of it. So we have these 2 books coming out this summer. One is Gather, and one is the 30-day guide. So it worked out that we were working on them at the same time, and it's like weekend paleo, weeknight paleo.
Yeah.
Sort of worked out that way.
Well, that's a good way to think about it too, because a lot of people they think that it's every single meal that needs to be super clean if you want
Right.
to be lean and healthy and that sort of thing. And that's actually not completely true. It's more about what you do most of your days. So
Right.
even if you do kind of goof off on the weekends and eat things that you shouldn't, or not exercise or whatever, you can get away with it if your week, your daily habits, the ones that you don't even really think about, the ones that are automatic, are pretty squeaky clean. And that's kind of
Right.
the way that I do it. And that's why, I mean, I'm pretty transparent about the fact that I do a lot of things that are not very paleo at all.
Yeah.
But the only reason that works is because most of the time it's squeaky clean.
Right. Yeah. Before paleo, I was definitely the all or nothing type. It was
Mhm.
like I'm either really clean or really bad,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until after paleo we started doing paleo and started making like grain-free desserts and stuff that I was really like, oh, okay, like I can have something that's not good for me, but not horrible,
Right.
like it's not like I'm going and eating a whole bag of like Oreos. I'm having, some
Mhm.
almond flour cookies or something. Um, and we see a lot. I feel like there's a lot in like the paleo CrossFit community where, these CrossFitters are not really completely sold on paleo. They
Mhm.
just kind of do it to go along with the exercise, which is great. But then they go out with their buddies on the weekend and they're, having beer and pizza or
Yeah.
something. Um, and then we see a lot of people that do paleo most of the time. And then they, there's a holiday and they're, having turkey with stuffing or,
Mhm.
regular pie and stuff like that. And we really, with this book, we really wanted to show people that like there are ways to celebrate and enjoy your time with friends and family without having to sacrifice, what makes you feel good
Yeah.
when you eat,
And
So
indulgence, like
right,
eating a bit of sweets or a bit of like something that's crazy fatty or really salty or something.
right,
That's part of the fun of being a foodie, right?
right,
Totally.
totally, yeah.
So what are some
Yeah.
examples from Gather of foods like that? I know that your Chinese food is definitely a hit.
Yeah, the
I think
Chinese food is a hit. I think my 2 favorite desserts, well, okay, so there's a lot of desserts in there that I really like. We made Bill's dad's coffee cake, his Christmas coffee cake, which is a sour cream coffee cake, and we
Mm.
made it with almond flour, and it was so perfect. We photographed this over at a family friend's house, and their kids were like, "Can I have another piece? Can I
Yeah.
have another piece?" It was so good. And then I made a checkerboard cake that's in the birthday menu. And that was really fun. And we enjoyed that with Bill's family. And his uncle was like, "This is the best cake I've ever had. Like,
Mhm.
hands down, the best cake I've ever had in my entire life." And so there's some really good desserts in the book. And they're really special,
Yeah.
because a lot of them do have meaning. Like Bill's dad makes coffee cake for every Christmas morning, and We really wanted to try and do that in a way that we could eat it. So we made it for the book, which we did before Christmas, and gave the recipe to Bill's dad. So he made it for us on Christmas.
Awesome.
So the whole family got to have some, which was
Wow.
really fun. And then the checkerboard cake, that was something my aunt would do for all of her kids' first birthdays. She always made a checkerboard cake. And I made one way before paleo. And I was like, I really want to try doing this. So I did a chocolate and vanilla one. I didn't, you know, a lot of people do like blue and white for boys and pink and white for girls. And I just left it, you know, chocolate and vanilla. But
That's cool.
yeah, that turned out really well.
Yeah,
So.
there's lots of neat, like, real food recipes in the book, too. The one that everyone's going ape over is the General Tso's chicken. And we made that at Paleo FX for a cooking demo, and it seems like...
It's starchy.
It's starchy, yeah.
Starchy,
yeah,
but...
I mean, I talk about real food. I just mean not desserts.
Right.
I mean, we did some neat menus in that book. Like, one, we were cooking for friends of the family. The guy's really into hunting. So we did a hunter-gatherer thing, and we used game meats that he had actually, like, hunted for, like elk and venison.
He took us out to his freezer in his garage, and he was like, all right, I got some of this, and I got some of that, and blah, blah, blah. And he told us after the meal, he was like, I was worried because game meat's hard to cook. So he was like, I didn't know what was going to happen when you guys made this, but it's great. So he was really impressed with the meal, which made us happy because he said that when he sort of sent us off with his meat, he was like, well, we'll see what happens.
So I grew up in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire, and every so often, even though they weren't supposed to, we had like posted no hunting signs, but people would come on our property, and the gentlemanly thing to do is to give a cut of the meat, you know, from your land. And so oftentimes we'd see, it's kind of horrific, especially being a little kid, you'd see like these bloody trails. And then like a couple days later, you know, someone would show up with 5 pounds of some sort of animal. And one time this one guy came back with like, it must have been 20 pounds of black bear.
Whoa.
And my dad is a great cook. He's always been great at like improvising in the kitchen and stuff. And so he's just like, all right, I'm sure I can do something with this. And like his beef has always been just like A-list stuff. He knows how to marinate it, tenderize, and like cook it just right. And so the first time we had it, it was like chewing on a rubber bullet. It was impossible to get down. It was just the most rubbery, disgusting thing we had all ever tried. And then we're just like, okay, we're going to try other things. And my dad's just thinking about all the different things he could do. He was pounding it. He was, you know, marinating it for a crazy long time. Nothing worked. Like, it was just, maybe we should have made sausages or something like that. But
that's funny. Did he ever figure it out?
No, never figured it out with bear anyway. Maybe the true answer is just don't eat bear. Go for something a little more tasty. It was super gamey too. But what do you guys do if you are cooking something that's gamey or a little bit different than what you would normally cook? Something easy like hamburgers. Like, how do you cook elk instead?
Yeah.
That's
so
lean?
we had to design the menu around what Chuck, the family friend who helped us out with it, we designed the meal around what he had. So he had a venison roast. He had some venison sausage, and he had elk steaks, and he had ground venison. So we made, with the ground venison, we made a meatball appetizer, sort of like Swedish meatballs. They're really good, and I like threw in a ton of fat with those meatballs. Nice. I was like, we need to fatten these meatballs up because they're so lean.
What fat did you use?
I'm pretty sure I used bacon fat.
Yeah, that's a pretty good go-to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure someone's gonna get this book and be like, "She lied. She didn't use bacon fat." I don't know. We made it a while ago, but I'm pretty sure.
Be fact checking you while you're
right.
Well, I got the book right here. Let's.
Yeah. No. Don't worry about it.
I'm pretty sure I used bacon fat in there. I'm not entirely sure, but and then for the roast, we pan-seared it. We pan-seared the sausage, and pan-seared the roast, just gave it a good brown, and threw it in the crock pot with the sausages. So the sausages gave it a really great flavor. We threw broth in there, and then I ended up doing like onions and apples, and it just gave it a really good flavor, and it just kind of fell apart. But I was so nervous to do this roast because Chuck was like, you got to cook it for this long, then you got to take it out, let it cool, let it rest, slice it, then put it back in with all the juices and let it, sit longer in the juices, sliced. And we literally were up until 3 o'clock in the morning
Jeez.
dealing with that roast because I was so worried about it. And then the elk steaks, those were just a quick grill.
Super quick
sear.
So screaming hot grill.
So it was pretty much either low and slow or really quick heat.
Yeah.
For the really gamey stuff.
Yeah.
And the elk did not taste gamey at all.
Nice.
It had a port wine reduction with it too, which was just
that helps.
Yeah, that helps.
That's really good.
That definitely helps. That I had to make twice because that reduction, I turned away for 1 second and all of a sudden the whole pan was black and I was like, all right, good thing we have extra.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have 7 dishes going at once, it can be a little tricky.
Totally.
Yeah.
We designed the menu so that people can prepare a lot of stuff ahead of time, but I mean, for us, we shot the whole book on location, so we're very much out of our element week after week in other people's kitchens, not knowing, temperatures or where things were.
Right.
It was really crazy.
It's challenging.
I sort of described each photo shoot for the book like dinner rush in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Just really fast paced and racing. We were racing the light. We're racing the clock for the recipes, and because we had to photograph each recipe on its own and the full table. We did, because there's that with each menu. There's a 2-page full photo of the whole spread, and then each dish in the menu has its own photo for the recipe. So it was a lot definitely for 2 people, but it was really fun.
It was super fun.
And
we had a great time doing it.
We just had a really good time with all the people that let us come into their homes and photograph, and they were all so excited and really supportive, and so it was a really cool experience. It was a lot of work, but I would do it over again if we were.
I would too.
Presented
you probably will.
Yeah. Gather number 2.
So now you guys are going to be throwing a bit of a shindig coming up pretty soon. You're doing your wedding 100% gluten free, which I'm sure is really exciting, but comes with a lot of its own challenges. So how are you guys going to pull that off?
So the first challenge, I guess, was the cake, which we weren't too worried about because we have an awesome gluten-free bakery in town. Mm-hmm. They're called Gluten-y. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And they have really great reputation. They do lots of awesome stuff, and they're a pretty allergen-free shop. So we originally were going to get our cake with them, and then we found out that there's a bakery 5 minutes from our house that does gluten-free cakes. So they're not a whole gluten-free facility, but they do really beautiful gluten-free cakes, and they're a lot closer to our wedding venue, so we ended up going with them. There's this Pittsburgh wedding tradition called the Pittsburgh cookie table, and I thought it was really stupid until I attended wedding. Yeah, I did. I was like, who needs all these cookies? This is dumb.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really stupid until I actually attended weddings that had the cookie table, and then I was like, "This is awesome!" So
Sweet.
it's just it's like tables of cookies, like
as far as
tons
the eye
of
can
cookies.
see.
Yeah. So if you don't have enough cake, just go shove some cookies down your
throat.
But
the idea is also that guests can take a bunch of cookies home with them.
Right.
Yeah. We were at Bill's sister's wedding, and I made some grain-free cookies and a couple of gluten-free cookies, and I was shoveling these cookies in my But
and the club made those almond.
Yeah, they made macaroons.
Almond macaroons,
which
were really good.
Yeah. So I decided I wanted to do the cookie table, the Pittsburgh cookie table, and so we're doing that, and we're doing all grain-free. We're getting some gluten-free cookies from the bakery. We're getting some of Paleo Treats to send us some stuff for our cookie table, and Eating Evolve, the truffle people.
People that do the truffles.
People that do the truffles.
Yeah, the bacon
those are
truffles.
really good. Yeah. So it's going to be really cool. And then, there's always some sort of thing with family, with, food and the way we eat and stuff. And we've had a couple people come up to us and say, you should really have rolls and bread, because people are going to want them. People are, and for our dinner, we have a vegetarian option, and we met with our chef at our wedding venue yesterday, and he was super accommodating and just really easygoing and made us so relaxed about the whole thing. And he's going to accommodate for nut allergies, dairy allergies. He basically said he will do one dish without a certain thing for someone who really can't have dairy, or because there's going to be some cheese on a salad or something like that. And so, we're super mindful about that stuff, of course. I mean, because we go to so many events and we can't eat something, and there's been plenty of weddings that we've gone to and don't have the cake because, it's gluten. And
sure.
so we kind of looked at each other and we were like, no, sorry, we're not going to have rolls at our wedding because it's one meal that, someone might not have rolls. But
I mean, it's more than like just like the crusade of getting people on real food, but it's like, we're bringing people into our world for a day, and we just want them to sort of have that experience, even if it's not so forward with them. It's just, they're going to say, oh, there's no rolls here. I guess this is all paleo.
Yeah. But I was kind of laughing to Bill. I was like, there's going to be some really amazing food at our wedding, including a gluten-free cookie table and an amazing gluten-free cake. I really don't think anyone's going to leave our wedding saying, there really should have been rolls. There really should have been rolls on that table.
Those jerks.
It's pretty funny. Maybe it's kind of a generational thing, but I've never thought about rolls that way. It's like, if they're there, I would always just eat them. But if they're not, it's not like something that you totally miss. Most of the time, especially if you're at a wedding or something like that, they're not the super fresh baked, buttery rolls that have those crisp edges or anything like that. It's like those stale. I used to cater weddings when I was growing up, and so it was like you could just toss those things like baseballs at each other, and that would maintain their shape. Like, it's not usually A-list rolls.
Funny. Well, the really cool thing is yesterday the chef was like, he said, he was like, I can ask some of my buddies and see if there's some like gluten-free crackers or rolls that I could get for, to put out on the tables. And so he was just so nice about the whole thing and really made us feel good. I won't have to worry that we're poisoning any of our friends by accident. Because one of the things that I've sort of said to everyone who's doing some cooking for us for this wedding is that, we have people coming that really get sick. So it's really, really important. Like our rehearsal dinner is a welcome dinner because we have so many out-of-town guests coming, so many friends of ours, and we're doing a pig roast for that.
Nice.
And it's going to be really cool. And so I had to say to the chef at this location, it's really important that the pig is not marinated in anything with gluten because we have guests that will be sick for our wedding the next day.
Right.
So it's really, really important. We don't want our guests, coming in for this wedding and then they have to stay in the hotel for the whole wedding because they got sick. So it's really nice when you work with someone who's cooking for a big event like this, and you are really confident that they are just going to take care of it all, and you don't have to do any hand holding. So,
right.
Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're coming up on time, but which I can't believe. But what are you guys working on next? I know you have plenty of things coming out, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so we're actually going back to the grind of just blogging, which is kind of cool. It's sort of everything. I know where everything started.
We're really excited about it.
Yeah, it's neat. I mean, you can make one thing and you photograph it and it's done instead of making like 10 and then putting together a book.
And also, if there's a typo, you can just change it instead of finding a typo in your printed book and being like, no.
But we're also working on our website, which is going to grow pretty quickly here. We've been working on it for the last year and a half. We're about to unveil a a meal planner, which is free for everyone to use. It's going to use all the recipes on our website. And the thing that's going to make that really powerful is that we're going to allow users to start uploading their own recipes soon. So they'll be able to use the meal planner on the site, and everything on our site is available in our iPhone app. It's iPhone and Android, but it's called My Kitchen, one word, no spaces.
Yeah.
So that sort of platform has been something we've been working on for a really long time, and we're sort of in the home stretch here, probably in the last 6 months of development on the site and the app, and just sort of getting to the point where we can enjoy the fruits of our labors and you know, also help people in the community the most by having these free tools.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Neat.
That's super cool. I'm excited for you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. We're excited too. It's really neat to be able to do this and sort of see it come together.
Yeah, totally. And then kind of build that community aspect around it too, like user submitted things. And I think that'll be super interesting to see what you guys get, because a lot of people who just kind of goof off in the kitchen make some really killer stuff.
Yeah, totally. It's going to be neat.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. We got a couple people on our Facebook page saying that they had recipes they wanted to post, and
awesome.
I love trying other people's recipes. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing that'll be helpful is, like, if somebody has a recipe and they're trying to communicate it to their friends, they can just say, "Oh, go to the app and search for the recipe name, and you'll find the ingredients. You can make a shopping list from it." So it's sort of a neat little tool that people can use to connect with one another.
That's super cool. All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been a blast.
Yeah,
thanks for having us. It's always fun talking.
Gather is a killer book. All you folks who don't have it yet, go grab it. It'll oh, Charlie. Charlie's back.
Charlie's a little sleepy. He was outside. It's raining today, so he's like a little wet mop.
He's been sleeping the whole time.
Oh man.
So, for anyone who doesn't have a Shih Tzu, this is what Shih Tzus do.
Absolutely. And anyone who is listening to the audio, you have to go to the blog post at fatburningman.com and check out this cute, adorable little creature. Oh my gosh. All right, guys, I got to go. But thank you so much. I'll be talking to you guys soon.
All right, bye.
Cheers.